Good things often come out of hard times, and such was the case with PacificSource health plans. During 1933, one of the most challenging times in our country's history, a group of Eugene, Oregon physicians established the not-for-profit organization to provide health insurance for local businesses and their employees.
The hospital was owned by the Northwest Christian College, and they were operating it as the Pacific Christian Hospital. The doctors formed the Pacific Hospital Society to operate the hospital. They then also formed the Pacific Hospital Association, and they operated both of them out of the one office, and Paul Briggs was manager of both.
There's this complicated structure where there was a group of physicians that formed this not-for-profit on March 31st in 1933. And that not-for-profit, it's not entirely clear what that was supposed to do. It was probably a combination of things, running the hospital, managing some property, and maybe beginning to put together sort of a hybrid health and workers' compensation benefit. So they were sort of managing this not-for-profit and this insurance piece somewhat separately. In the late 30s, they decided to combine that, and they put that into one entity, and they eventually filed it with the insurance division in 1940. So they moved more from what was almost regulated as a workers' compensation benefit to a health benefit in 1940, and then began to go from there.
The Pacific Northwest was a vastly different place 75 years ago. The Great Depression made life challenging, and for those fortunate enough to have jobs, the work was often backbreaking. However, the logging industry was vital and employed thousands of people, all of whom needed medical care and the means to pay for it. Doing business as Pacific Hospital Association, we covered 600 lives at $1.25 per month in 1934, mostly logging and government contracts.
Hills Creek Lumber Company, Christina Brothers Lumber Company, New Service Laundry, Lane County, City of Eugene, and West Fur Lumber Company.
At the time, hospital rates were $18 per week and office calls cost $1.50. In the words of Max Wright, PHA paid 100% for practically everything.
Practically everything except the prescriptions were limited. We had an agreement with all the pharmacists in Eugene that they would fill our prescriptions for 50 cents a piece.
Slow, steady growth and solid resources made Pacific Hospital Association an attractive company in the 1940s. By 1945, PHA insured 4,500 working men and women at $2 per month. In 1947, we offered our first family coverage contract to Associated Plywood.
And it was really not until you start moving through the 40s that folks are thinking about the fact that these people are married and have dependents, and those folks need health benefits at all. But you kind of have to go back to the origins of health coverage, which was employers who were worried about their employees being able to come to work and were concerned about their personal bankruptcy and wanted to make sure that they had access to benefits so that they could, number one, get well when they were sick and so they could return back to work, and number two, not run into all kinds of financial issues related to their health benefits. So they looked at, that's why they put it in place.
As the country entered the post-war boom of the 1950s, PHA continued its steady growth, mostly in the timber industry. We celebrated our 20th anniversary in 1953 with 10,500 members. Premiums had risen to over $4 and hospital rates reached $13.25 a day. In 1964, the physicians at the Eugene Hospital and Clinic joined PHA as member doctors. In 1969, new contracts were developed for small groups and individuals to meet competition in the marketplace.
The market was changing. There were smaller employers that were looking for insurance. And so we responded to that by putting together products that went after those particular entities.
By 1975, PHA premiums and contract benefits were now becoming more and more competitive. Name familiarity was growing due to advertising and word of mouth, and we began to expand our provider network in Lane County.
Our primary benefits were the physician benefits and the physician network. We had no contracts with hospitals at that point in time. We just paid that as an indemnity benefit.
In 1980, we purchased the HP Famous computer system from UDF Computer Systems for just over $195,000. The HP 3000 came with a whopping 256 kilobytes of memory.
When I first started working at PacificSource, the claims process was 100% manual. When a member had a service, it would come in on a little, probably 3x5 ticket, and it would indicate who the member was, and each doctor had their own, and they would stamp their information on it.
We had to type claims in triplicate, and we would send copies to the member and copy to the provider with the check, and we'd file one copy, and even posting eligibility. Oh my gosh, that was a little hash mark in a calendar at the front of this member's folder to indicate that they had paid for July of 1981. And then the adjudicator looked in the inside cover to see if that hash mark was there so that they could process a claim for a date of service within that month.
There was no auto adjudication. We had to work the claims up manually, had to use our calculators, doing the 10 key and everything, and then manually put the paid amount into the pay field before the claim would pay.
When we first began using computers in 1980, it changed our operations dramatically, but it didn't necessarily create efficiencies in all areas. Claims were manually entered for the adjudicators to view online. However, they still had to do much of the coding and the payment calculation manually.
There were a lot of bumps in the road, and it was very slow, and you always thought, well, I can do this faster the old way, but obviously eventually just became second nature to use that system.
It was a shock to all of us because computers were really fairly new to us. Nobody had anything like this at home or any kind of experience with it. And giving up paper was a huge big deal. And it really took a tug of war in some cases to have them take our stacks of claims away from us.
In the 80s, the health insurance industry experienced increased utilization, and many carriers raised premiums dramatically in response to large claims losses. Thanks to selective marketing and conservative underwriting practices, PHA avoided large losses and continued growing steadily.
They went through a period of time when they were doing 6-month renewals. So in other words, they were only given 6-month contracts so that they could adjust rates on a 6-month basis. It was not a simple time, and it's indicative of the fact that there are pretty big cycles in this business.
As the company grew, we were in need of more space to accommodate our employees. In 1985, PHA purchased 60,000 square feet of property on Country Club Road for the construction of the new PHA office building.
In 1987, we moved from Coburg Road to the Country Club Road, brand new building. It was awesome. It was such a fun day, and
It was a great time for me. I was in purchasing when we moved from Oakmont to Country Club Road. And in my position, I got to work with all the contractors and the movers, so I got to help organize the move. It was, for me, I think, a bigger deal than it was for most of the employees because I was involved on every level of what was going on.
believe it or not, those that were in that building and have moved here, we only took up about, I would say about 2/3 of that building, and we leased out the other third.
In the late 80s, a decision by the Oregon legislature forced us to change the way we do business.
Prior to 1989, we didn't have small employer regulations. And before 89, we would take health statements on every member in an employer group. And based on their health status, we either accepted or rejected the groups and determined, those that we accepted determined what rates that we were going to take that group at. Certainly in the passage of small employer laws, which have been updated twice since 1989, have had a big influence on how we do business and how we think about our business.
The 80s also brought changes to the industry as small insurance companies began to merge. This created an opportunity for us to expand beyond Lane County.
Prior to our expansion in other areas, there were several small insurance plans like PacificSource in the state, and each plan had kind of carved out their own little area. Well, some of those plans started either going out of business or being absorbed by a larger plan, which is now Regions. And from that point, PacificSource decided that they would become a statewide plan.
I started working here in July of 1990, and we really didn't even have a marketing plan back then. The aim was to get out and see all the brokers we could. And really, outside of Lane, Lynn, and Benton counties, nobody had really heard of Pacific Hospital Association. So I hit the ground running, knocked on a lot of doors, a lot of times before anybody, would even listen to me, because they didn't know who I was. They didn't know who Pacific Hospital Association was. It seemed like the big player at the time was Regions.
So we recognized a need at that time to raise awareness of the PacificSource name and let people know who we are and how we do business. When I started about 15 years ago, I think that really all we did in terms of advertising was Yellow Pages ads. That changed as we spread out geographically and did business in more areas, and as our product portfolio expanded too. So about 10 years ago, we really ramped up our advertising, and we started doing a lot of direct-to-consumer advertising, like billboards and bus boards and television and radio ads and newspaper ads and those sorts of things. And I think over time that's had quite an impact. We've measured that from time to time, and definitely seen a growth in the awareness of PacificSource.
I guess the old adage, persistence pays off. It did pay off. And eventually we did start to grow. People found out we had great service and that we were a local company, and that when you called here, you got a real person answering the phone. And I guess the rest is history, because we did eventually start to grow, and we did grow a lot in the 90s.
With our market expanding, we decided to adopt a name that more accurately represented our company and the services we offer. Many names were considered, including Pacific Integrated Healthcare and PacificSource Health Systems. Ultimately, PacificSource Health Plans was chosen to let people know that we are their source for health insurance. As our market expanded, we also worked to build a larger provider network.
If you look prior to 95, our provider network was our member physicians. And that was not a very aggressive process. We, for the most part, did not contract at all with hospitals and other types of providers. When I got hired in 95, there was a sense that that was something that was going to need to happen.
We had to go through the phone book and try to figure out who was a participating provider and who wasn't, and where we needed to. We were going into the Marion, Polk County area and into the Portland area, and it was beginning to feel a little overwhelming. Contracts were getting a little more complicated.
And I brought some background in hospital contracting or provider contracting in general, and we slowly built the function.
By the late 1990s, we had become a statewide plan, providing businesses and individuals in all corners of Oregon with flexible health and now dental insurance. We moved into our new headquarters in Springfield, Oregon in September 2003. That same year, we acquired 2 third-party administrators, Manly Services and Select Benefit Administrators.
We were very excited to join PacificSource because the corporate values, the family values, all meshed very well. It was kind of the way we did things, and it was nice to see PacificSource doing the same things.
I've always admired PacificSource, and even when I started Select Benefit Administrators in 1998, I spent several years trying to convince Jen Stedman to give me access to the PacificSource network so I would have something completely different than my competition. The partnership with SBA and PacificSource, I really believe, give us something special in the marketplace, so I think our opportunities are endless.
Having all of us under one roof, being able to cross-sell between the 3 organizations, that's going to give us some more potential for future sales.
In 2007, PacificSource achieved a key goal of its expansion strategy by entering the Idaho market. With a regional office in downtown Boise, Idaho, PacificSource is now positioned to pursue its vision of becoming the leading independent health plan in the Pacific Northwest. Today, our company has grown to nearly 400 employees. We provide health insurance to more than 150,000 people and have contracts with more than 9,000 doctors, hospitals, and other health providers. Our 75 years of experience will only help us to succeed.
It's interesting if you look at the history and you look at the challenges we've faced over time, and you look at the kinds of challenges we're facing today. And there's a lot of similarities to some of the kinds of issues the company faced even in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. One of the things that seems like it's been true from the beginning is this company's had a real fierce commitment to its independence. And so we want to continue to maintain that independence and be in a strong position to be able to leverage that and be able to keep it in place as we go forward.
Well, PacificSource has been known for a long time, I think, for being a company that takes a really personal approach to business and what it does. And that's probably exemplified best by people knowing us for having a live person answer the phone. It's something that people keep coming back to time and time again.
We care about the people that we take care of as well. And I don't think many companies do that nowadays. I mean, they don't want to empower their people to have that empathy. And we are health insurance. We sell a piece of paper and a promise.
I think PacificSource truly cares about the members and the service that we give them. I know there are groups that stay with us just because of our service, and I've experienced where groups have left us and been back in a year or two because they could not find that service anywhere else.
Probably there's not a week that goes by that I don't receive a note from a group administrator stating how much they appreciate the service that they receive.
At PacificSource, our customer service is everything, internally and externally. And I truly believe that if we have the internal customer service with each other, working toward the common goal, that it will just naturally flow to the outside. Our members and our clients appreciate the fact that we work very well together, and if they can see that from marketing to membership to claims to customer service, that it gives them the confidence that they picked the right carrier.
I think the beauty of a company growing like this is that there are new people coming into the organization constantly, and the company gets to take advantage of new skills and new experiences.
I've had the opportunity to wear many hats at PacificSource and take many classes along the way, so I've been able to do multiple jobs throughout the years that I've been with PacificSource.
I've done everything from reception to buying office supplies and company cars. I've got to organize open houses. I'm of course now in customer service, learned the medical claims side on the enterprise team. That's the real, I think, wonderful thing about this company.
And if an employee has the initiative and wants to grow and makes that known, there's going to be someone there to help them along the way, at least to guide them or direct them.
They're always willing to, let people grow and learn, take on new challenges so they can advance, and they're always encouraging to help us reach our goals.
We've got a lot of employees that have stayed here for a lot of years, and you don't see that in a lot of companies anymore. I mean, 15, 20, 25, even 30 years is unheard of in employment anymore, and we've got quite a few people here at PacificSource that have been here that long, and I think they've all played a vital role as well in helping us grow.
And decided to leverage our presence in the market and in the community, and put together a foundation and really began to enhance that charitable role and that community role.
As long as we continue trying to be helpful to our community, I think it goes a long way, really, for everybody, and it really benefits PacificSource kind of indirectly as the, we're out there really to help, and we want to help people.
The people I've worked with at PacificSource over the years have become a really important part of my life, both professionally and personally.
This organization gives us a lot of opportunities to mix with other people in the company, and
I feel really good about being able to do my job in part because I feel like I've built relationships in all departments and that everyone else has built relationships in departments. It makes it really easy for me to do my job when I have not just coworkers in every department, but friends in every department who I know will go out of their way to assist me.
I have a lot of very good friends here. We've celebrated each other's marriages and births and graduations, and we've camped together and traveled together and partied together, and we've cried. I feel like throughout the years I've had an awesome opportunity to build a lot of really strong relationships. We spend most of our life where we work, and they become your friends and your family.
On a winter night by the fire, we talked about the plans we made. We shared our dreams and desires, we vowed our friendships wouldn't fade. The roads go on in all directions. Sometimes it's hard to see the way, but the heart is strong with such affection. Sometimes you're wishing you'd stay, and the Pennsylvania hills keep rolling on forever and forever, with the warmth that fills my heart with all the people there. And I know I will